Hello, welcome to the fourth program of the file structures lab. So what we're going to do in this is so here basically we are writing a C++ program for implementing the RRN, that is the relative record number. Write a C++ program to write student objects with variable length records using any suitable record structure and to read from this file a student record using RRN. RRN is nothing but relative record number, which means to say for all the records that are sitting in the file will be given a relative record number like this. First record is 1, second record is 2, and so on. So the entry sequenced file that we maintain will also have some mechanism using which we will be able to retrieve the records that are there in the file, and that is your RRN. Okay, so pretty much it looks similar. We'll see what is the change. So we have declared a class called a student, inside which we have the same data item, US and name, semester. We have the same function enter data, display data, pack and unpack. Okay, and then we have declared one student object here. We have an array of RRNs. We have one count, and then we declared one fstring fp1 file pointer. Similar to that, we also have some other searches based on find, RRN, search and error. These are the other functions that are there. So let us see how exactly we're going to implement this RRN. So we're going to initially open the record RRN record.txt in output mode and append mode. So we are going to write something into this, so that's the reason we are going to open that in the output mode. That's what it means. And we are going to append the records every time we are going to run this particular program. So we are going to open the file in append mode. Then we are going to close this file simply because we just want to make sure that this particular file is present. Then we are going to actually call this particular function called as find RRN. See, one thing we need to understand is these set of programs that we are executing in File Structures Lab, you can see that the data that we have entered or the records that we have entered are persistent, which means to say the next iteration when you actually run the program, the files will contain the previous records that were entered in the previous iteration of the program. So we can always use the records that were entered in the previous iteration for this iteration of the program. So we do not know at the beginning of the program as to how many number of records are already present in this particular RRN rec.txt. Unlike other programs where we can always omit that detail of how many records are there, here we are implementing a method called as search based on the RRN, which means to say we should be knowing at the beginning of the program how many records are there. So we need to find how many RRNs are there. So we'll straight away go to that particular function. Here it is, find RRN. So what is happening here, we are going to open that particular text file or the record file called as RRN rec.txt in input mode, and then check whether we could not open or we can open the file and all that. Till the end of the file, what we are going to do is we are going to simply say tell the position of the current get pointer of the file. So we're going to simply say fp1.telg and then simply say get line fp1 comma segment, which means to say it will read where exactly the file, I mean the get pointer is, and then it also reads one line from wherever it is. And if the segment dot length is equal to 0, which means to say if there is no record present, then it continues till the end of the file. Otherwise, what we are doing is we are populating an array called as RRN with the count. That is, every line that we read is a record. Every line we read is a record, and whatever position we are reading is the beginning address of that particular record. So in a file, if you open a file, 0 will always be the starting point of the first record. Like that, if you read the next line and then again go to the next line, read that particular line and go to the next line, the position of that second record will be whatever is the length of the first record plus 1, something like that. So we are going to read the position of every record and populate this array RRN. And we will also have how many number of records are already present in the file. Okay, so once we are done with this, we will have the details of a kind of an index which says where exactly the record is, that is the position of the record, that is the starting address of the record, and how many records are there in the file rrnrec.txt. So once we are done with this, we will have two information: total number of records that are present in the file, and what is the starting address of each of these records that will be present in RRN array. Right? So once we are done with this, we are going to close this file, okay, and then return back to the main function. So even before we ask the user the menu, okay, we display the user the menu, insert record, search, exit, whatever, we can assume that if at all this particular program is run already, and this is the second iteration or the third iteration that you are running, whatever records you had actually inserted in the very first iteration will already be there in rrnrec.txt, and to continue that you are supposed to first read, get to know how many records were entered and the position of each of the records, and then start asking the input from the user. That's exactly what is going to happen next. So while one show him the menu, 1 to insert a record, 2 to search, 3 to exit, take the choice, and based on the choice you switch. So case 1 is s1.enter data, which means to say you simply ask, this is something which you have already seen, ask the question, get the answer, enter USN, see in USN, enter name, see in name, enter SEM, see in SEM. Once we take all the data, we are going to open this particular record file in iOS output and input, append mode, and then simply pack it. So what do you mean by pack? We should remember that we are working with variable length records. So please observe it is very similar to the previous program where we are not making any check on the length of the buffer before even writing it into the file. So we are simply packing all the fields and we are going to simply write it into the file fp1. Right? So before writing here, what we are supposed to do is, there are two things that we do extra here. One is finding out the current position of the get pointer, which will always give me, okay, where exactly I am writing the record next. Okay, we need this information because that is the starting point of the record that we are about to write into the file, and that is very much required because we are going to search that particular record based on the RRN, and we will be straight away going to that particular position to retrieve the data. Okay, so we are supposed to make note of where exactly we are in the file currently, and then pack all the details that you have got from the user and write it into the file. along with the record delimiter that is ended. And we are supposed to update that particular array, RRN array, which will contain the position of that particular record number, right? So this is exactly what is happening in pack. Once we are done with pack, we're going to close the file, and then in search, the second option is search. So we'll see what happens in search. Search is an independent function. So what exactly happens? So here in this particular program, we are searching based on the RRN of the record, it is relative record number of the record. Relative record number is 1. The first record will have relative record number is 1. Second record will have relative number 2. So please remember, we are not searching based on the USN, that is the primary key of the record. We are searching based on the RRN, that is relative record number. Now once we are searching based on the relative record number, we should handle this condition. Now what if the relative record number that the user entered for searching is greater than the number of records that you have, or the relative record number to be searched is less than 1? In either case, it is the wrong input from the user, right? Such a record number will never exist. So you are supposed to print an error and return. Otherwise, you simply have to say record found, and please observe how easy it is now to fetch the record. Position is equal to RRN of RRN search underscore search. Now it is so very easy, you will find out it very easily, because relative record number 1 will always be in 0th position, and that information is already kept here in this particular array. The relative record number 2 will have the starting address mentioned here. Relative record number 3 will also have the starting address mentioned here, and that will be returned to position. Now what will you do with this particular information of the position of the record, right? What will you do with it? So what you are going to do is open that particular record in the input mode, that is the read mode, and then simply say unpack that particular record that you read from that particular position. So please observe, there is a little difference between the unpack function of other programs that we've studied and the unpack program of this particular function. Unpack function of this particular program will take an argument, that is that particular record which we are interested in. We are not going to unpack every record that is written onto the file. We are going to unpack only that particular file which is there in that particular record which is there in that, which is written from this particular position. So unpack actually remains the same thing. FP1, only thing is we are supposed to go to that particular record. Now to go to that particular record, it is very easy, because we need not have to traverse every record using sequential search. And in other programs, that's what happened. Every record was loaded into the array, and we used to use a simple linear search to find out the USNs that had to be searched. Here it is not like that. It's like big O of 1, constant time hashing kind of a thing, where we simply go to that particular position because we know where that particular record is, and we have kept it already in pos, right, position. So straight away go there and then start reading the line, and start reading USN name and semester. So this is about unpack. So exactly after unpacking, what happens in search, we'll come back to search. Once we unpack, we're going to close the file and simply say display the data. So whatever we got after unpacking, we simply display it. So display says just display, go on displaying what name is, so what semester is, and what USN is. That's all, right? So it goes on displaying it. So I think that's the end of the search function. Once the search function is successful, you will come here and then again repeat the process until you press 3 to exit the program. So this is what we are supposed to learn in this particular program 4, that is about RRN, searching a record based on relative record number.